What's going on, guys? In today's video, we're talking about why people are leaving the Finger Lakes region. Let's get into it. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, be sure to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you're notified every Tuesday and Thursday that I release a new video. And with that being said, as much as I love making these videos for you on all things Finger Lakes and Rochester living, I would love even more to help you with those real estate needs. So that email and that number that's popping up on the bottom of your screen, I am the guy that answers those texts, emails, and phone calls. So whether you're moving in 9 days or 90 days, I would be honored to be the team of choice for you. Again, my name is Anthony. I'm with the American Home Team here in EXP Realty in the Rochester and Finger Lakes region, and I would love nothing more but to help you guys with your real estate needs. So I'm definitely here if you need help. And without further ado, today we're talking about why are people leaving the Finger Lakes region. And let me start by clarifying that not many people are leaving the Finger Lakes region at all. By a majority, people are leaving the cities, so Rochester, Buffalo, Syracuse, Albany, New York City, and coming to the Finger Lakes region. But if we were to categorize leaving the Finger Lakes, these are some of the reasons why people are doing that. The first reason that I wanted to talk about, and I am absolutely blown away by this one, but hey, to each his own. Everybody lives their own life and has their own personal prerogative, whatever. But one of the reasons why people are leaving the Finger Lakes region is feeling a sense of isolation. So maybe where they bought their house at some point in the Finger Lakes was kind of like in the middle of the lakes, so they were kind of out in the boonies, if you will, right? They're out in the rolling hills, and they probably have 5 to 30 acres of land, and they're probably not very close to many amenities at all. They're probably not very close to people. Their nearest neighbor is probably 500 yards away at least, and so they just feel a sense of isolation. And especially, like, I'm finding that as people get older, they want to get in a community, whether it's a 55 and older community or something similar, where there's other people around. You go out and grab the mail from the mailbox and you wave at the neighbor who's doing the same thing, like, hey, hello, good morning. And people really like that kind of thing. And depending on where you are in the Finger Lakes, if you're in between the lakes, you're probably not going to get that very much. If you're in the cities or like the townships possibly of some of these lakes, so like if you're in the city of Canandaigua, if you're in the city of Victor, or say the city of Geneva or Skaneateles, you'll likely get that type of effect, right? Where you're going to have neighbors, you're going to have people around you, you're going to have a sense of community. But if you're in between the lakes, chances are you're not going to have that. And you can start to feel a sense of being alone, just because nobody else is out there with you. And I know plenty of people who feel they don't feel as safe because their house is out, like, tucked back in the woods or something, and they're out kind of on their own. They're thinking, who's going to help me if I need help, or whatever. So they end up wanting to move into a larger community with more people, more things to do, maybe a community pool or something like that, and just somewhere that they have neighbors. And this blows me away just because that is not me at all, at least not yet. I don't love the close neighbor kind of thing. I live in a house right now where we do have neighbors, but if I had it my way, if I could pick and choose my plot of land, it would not be around a lot of people. It would just be off on their own. If we want to go engage with people and hang out with people and stuff, we'll travel into town or into the city. But that's my personal prerogative. A lot of people actually are the opposite of that. So that is why they're moving out of some of these rural lakeside areas, and it's really just to be around more people. And then also coming on the tail end of that, one thing I wanted to mention is just proximity in general. So a lot of these areas in the Finger Lakes, depending on where you are, in order to get to a grocery store, you might have to drive 30 minutes, or you might have to, go 25 minutes, but it's around all these, windy roads and hills and stuff, or dirt roads, something that doesn't get plowed possibly. Or in order to get to the hospital, it's, maybe 45 minutes, which is a pretty big deal, especially as you get older in age. You want to be closer to a hospital because you need access to it, right? You're going to be going more regularly for checkups, and heaven forbid something happens to you, you want them to be close so that they can get to you and assess your needs quickly, and potentially, hopefully, save your life if that needs to be done. So a lot of people are moving closer proximity to hospitals, to grocery stores, to gas stations. That's a big thing in those areas, is you might not have a gas station for, at least a few miles. So if you or your wife are one of those people that you like to just drive home and kind of see how far you can stretch the empty tank, you're probably not going to make it. You should probably run with like a couple 5-gallon tanks of gas in your trunk, just in case, because some gas stations are pretty far away. So proximity to things, not just people, but things, are also important to people. And again, especially as you age, you want to be closer to these hospitals, you want to be closer to grocery stores, you want to be closer to everything. And so so that is primarily one of the bigger reasons. And then with that too, the more rural you get, just like anywhere else in the country, you're going to lose cell service. So now that our world, fortunately and unfortunately, is ran on digital so much, we tend to rely on these things, right? Just even for GPS or for whatever, we rely on these things. And out in a lot of those areas, you probably don't get cell phone service. You might have to get a dish on top of your house, or some of these other like satellites, or I don't know what some of these services are, that they're a little bit more expensive, but you might be able to get service. But overall, like, you could be driving down the road, completely lose service, lose your maps on your phone. And I've certainly done that when I was on my way to showings, lost the maps because of lack of service, and then taking forever to find houses, etc. So with proximity to people comes proximity to things, and then also cellular and Wi-Fi service as well. Moving on, one of the big obvious things is the weather and the climate in the Finger Lakes. So this is particularly going to be for, again, people as they age, but not even just them, younger folks as well. They just want to get out of the cold, snowy weather, and so they either become snowbirds, where they only come up to this area, the Finger Lakes region, in the summertime, or they just move down south or somewhere less snowy and cold permanently. And so, this is a reason for myself. Although I enjoy winter, I like doing things in the winter, this is a reason why I would move out of the Finger Lakes. If I were to, it would be because of weather. I got spoiled by 4 years in Hawaii in the Marine Corps, so I absolutely love the sun now, and I love the beach and everything that goes into like island life or like beach life. We don't really have that here. So if that is you, don't come here. But if you are already here, then absolutely move down south. A lot of people, they are doing that. And so we're seeing a lot of migration from the Finger Lakes down south, primarily for the climate and the weather. The next thing I'm going to touch on briefly, because I know I'm going to get a lot of flack in the comment section about this, is politics. Interesting, right? So a lot of people in the Finger Lakes tend to be more to the right side. They tend to be more right-leaning, conservative leaning. They like to shoot guns, whether that's target practice, whether that's hunting, or just for self-protection, right? They like to carry their guns. They like to feel like their vote matters. And while New York is a blue state, a lot of the population in the Finger Lakes region is conservative voters. And I understand how the voting works. Don't got to get into that and everything. It goes by population, not by land mass, whatever. A lot of the people in the Finger Lakes a lot of the Finger Lakes is comprised of conservative voting, Republican voting individuals. Good or bad, not saying anything about that, but what they're doing is they're just getting sick of feeling like their votes don't matter here in New York State, because New York is such a blue state. All the votes from New York City and Albany and some of the other bigger cities, Buffalo and Syracuse, Rochester, are coming in, and they're blue, and a lot of the policies follow suit there. So a lot of the people who are on the right don't really like that, and so they move to other states that follow suit or align with their political interests and political needs. So if somebody is very politically charged, or that's something that they really care about, they're likely going to be moving either down south, Florida, Carolinas, Texas, Tennessee, we're seeing a lot of. So, places where they can, own however many guns they want, whatever kind of guns they want. They can shoot, they can carry, they can, maybe a constitutional carry state, something like that. And then also they're taxed less, which we'll get into. But they're taxed less. They get to keep more of their money, and just some of the other things that come with being a Republican or conservative voter, right? They're going to these states who allow that, and that lean more that way and align with their political affiliation. And moving right along, we're talking about education and diversity. So in the Finger Lakes regions, specifically the Finger Lakes regions, you're not going to get a very diverse school population. Your school population is primarily white. And so what we actually find, though, is a lot of people migrating from the Finger Lakes to the more of the suburbs of Rochester. So like the Pittsfords or the Penfield, the Brightons, especially Irondequoit, maybe, in some of the surrounding areas, so they can get more diversity. Oftentimes with more diversity comes better opportunity for other things, whether we're talking about a bigger school, because a lot of the schools in the Finger Lakes are very small, whereas you might get a smaller student to teacher ratio, but the school just not having as many students, we have some schools that are 70 kids in the graduating class. So very, very, very small schools. Of course, with a school that small, you're not going to get as great of opportunity in your arts, in your sports, your musical things, theater. There's just not going to be as much opportunity. So a lot of them migrate from the Finger Lakes to the Rochester area, and they get more diversity there, and they get better sports, better theater classes, better, just all around better opportunities, and it tends to suit their kids better if they are going to a public school. So a lot of people really like that. Not to mention that Brighton is the #1 public school in the area. So there's a bunch of private schools. Harley School is a great school, but for public schools, what most people go to, Brighton is the #1 school. And so a lot of people are migrating to these areas just for diversity and educational opportunities, just because the school they're coming from is so small and lacks those opportunities. Next, we're talking about the job opportunities. I've mentioned it in a lot of videos before that in the Finger Lakes, within the Finger Lakes region, you don't have tons of job opportunities. Your job boards like Monster and Indeed and Career Builder and all these things might be flooded with jobs, but they're all like entry level, very low level jobs that don't really pay a livable wage, and don't have significant upward potential. One thing that people look at when they're looking at career opportunities is the upward potential and how much they can grow and advance in their career, and then as well as like what is the increase in pay that you can earn too. Are you going to get bonuses? These kind of things, right? A lot of the businesses within the Finger Lakes region are going to be smaller businesses. They're not going to offer the same amount of incentives. They're not going to offer the same amount of, bonus structures and 401ks and life insurance and all these things, right, that come with some of the bigger corporations, bigger manufacturing plants, those kind of things. That being said, the Finger Lakes is great, especially for trades. If you're into trades, if you're automotive, if you're a contractor working construction like residential or commercial buildings, or anything like that, building bridges, like there's great opportunity for that because a lot of these contracting companies reside in these like suburban or these rural towns that, they are a little bit out there, but they do a damn good job, and a lot of them will pay very good money. You're going to get a lot of overtime. You're going to have to work your ass off, just like every other trade in the world. Those guys are some of the hardest working MFers ever. But that being said, the just overall like corporate jobs, just your big business jobs, they're not plentiful in the Finger Lakes region. What are plentiful are some of the professional services. So like my job being real estate agent is huge in the Finger Lakes. Being an attorney, anything in law, being doctors. So some of those professional services, they're big in the Finger Lakes, but anything else like tech or like manufacturing or, your arts. So like film or anything like that, like probably not the best place for that. So a lot of people, what we find, really it's just job related. They move from the Finger Lakes to closer to the Rochester area so that for one, commute into a good job is just closer. And just that there's more opportunity in the area, more people to talk to that you can meet, that, it's just good networking, good connecting with people that can also help you get a good job, and really accomplish the things in your life that you really want to. Now, the Finger Lakes is great for entrepreneurs. Like myself, we build businesses here as well. So if you're somebody who likes to build businesses, the Finger Lakes is great for you. But if that's not you and you need to, and you're relying on somebody else who has the business that you're going in, like falling into their system type thing, like just a normal corporate job, then Rochester is probably where you want to be. So that's usually what we see is a majority of people move from the rural areas just to get closer to work, which is up toward the city of Rochester or maybe the city of Syracuse or Buffalo, depending on where they are in the Finger Lakes. And so really it's just proximity to work. And once again, coming on the coattails of that, the job opportunities is the commute and transportation. So within the Finger Lakes, you don't really have many public transits. You're gonna have your Uber and Lyfts, of course, right? Like your ride sharing type thing. Very few taxis in the Finger Lakes region, but you're not gonna have public buses and things like that, right? So commute is gonna be a little bit longer. You need a car, you need a vehicle. So if you don't want to be spending a shit ton of money in gas, then living in certain places in the Finger Lakes shouldn't be where you are, or shouldn't be something that you're doing. You should be closer to the city, closer to where you work, and spend less on gas, less on. Driving here in the Finger Lakes takes a big toll on your vehicle. The salt, the potholes, the dirt roads, those kind of things. It's going to take a toll on your vehicle. You're going to have pop tires. You're going to have rusted the undersides of your car. It's, you know, paint chips, potential of rocks going through your windshield, those type of things. Of course, that can happen anywhere. But in the Finger Lakes, depending on how rural you're getting, how far out there you're getting, how far up on the hills you're getting, and into the woods, it could be more abundant. We definitely see a lot of people moving just to avoid that, and just to get, like I said, closer to work, closer to commute to the grocery store, and just getting around other public transportation in case they ever were to need it. And last but certainly not least is the real estate in the Finger Lakes and the taxes that come with it as well. So in the Finger Lakes region, not like I said in the very beginning of the video, despite everything that I've said in the middle of this video, most people aren't leaving the Finger Lakes region. And because of that, there's very little supply and a whole lot of demand. People want to move to the Finger Lakes region. So when you have too much demand, not enough supply, I mean, you know, prices rise. And when somebody does decide to list their house and sell their house, that the price is going to come at a premium. And so buyers who are buying in the Finger Lakes region know that they're getting a house at a premium because everybody wants that. When everyone wants something, the price can basically be named. And it's not that crazy here in the Finger Lakes, but, you know, prices are going up more than inflationary rates, right? So a house that maybe sold at $200,000 last year could be selling at $350,000 this year. These kind of things are happening without significant change in the house either. Maybe a new coat of paint or something like that, right? So home prices are going up. And that being said, a lot of these places in the Finger Lakes region, especially if you're like on the lake or closer to the lakes, you're going to be paying higher taxes. So there are areas, of course, in a lot of the surrounding cities that have high taxes and whatnot, but then also a lot of them have lower taxes than a lot of the places in the Finger Lakes. So again, with the beauty and everything that comes with being in the Finger Lakes, the beauty of the nature and in the serene lakes and those kind of things, everything that there is to do around there, the mountainsides, the hiking, the fishing, the boating, whatever comes with the Finger Lakes, you're paying a premium, and that comes in taxes too. So taxes, as I've mentioned in many videos before, that's the one reason why people move out of New York State as a whole. I know me as a business owner, just owning businesses, like you don't get to keep a ton of your money, but a lot of people, when they see their W-2s from their 9-to-5 job, they get their W-2 and they see how much money is taken out, and it's breathtaking. But then also your property taxes, which is more of what I'm talking about. Property taxes is pretty significant as well. So when you're buying a house here in the Finger Lakes, taxes can just eat you up. Taxes are the big factor of, we've seen a swing of people, you know, being able to have a purchase power of, say, $250,000, and then depending on the taxes, they may only be able to afford $150,000. So you have a $100,000 swing just based on the taxes of the areas. So it really depends on where you go and what taxes you're going to get, the school district and what township and whatnot. But taxes are very steep here in the Finger Lakes region and the Rochester region. Really just New York as a whole, but the Finger Lakes especially. You're paying a premium for these things, and the real estate prices are going up. And, you know, as far as the real estate prices going up, it's because it's such a desirable area. It is a premium area. A lot of people want to come here. Like I said, very low supply, very high demand. It's a supply-demand thing. So prices are going up, but that combined with the taxes may make it very unreasonable for a lot of people. And so a lot of people, they'll get into a house, they'll think like, hey, we can afford this for now, both wife and husband, whatever, have a job. But then maybe kiddo number one comes down the road, and maybe the wife or husband end up you know, staying at home or something like my wife does. Now you're on one fixed income and maybe you can't afford it anymore because the taxes are too high. If you take the taxes out, the principal and interest is affordable, but then you add the taxes in and it's just over that threshold. So a lot of people, they just decide, hey, we can't really afford this anymore. So either they move out of state or they move to an area like Henrietta or Farmington or something that has much lower taxes. So definitely when you're buying a house here, you need to be cognizant of the taxes, and your loan officer that we set you up with will kind of coach you through that, as will we. But it's something that you really need to be cognizant of because it can really alter your buyer power or buying power when looking to purchase a home here. And the Finger Lakes is no stranger to that. Certainly paying some pretty high taxes in the Finger Lakes. So just keep that in mind. But that is why people are moving out of the Finger Lakes to maybe some of the areas just outside of Rochester, or maybe to another state that doesn't have as expensive taxes. So there you have it. That is a majority of the reasons, obviously not all the reasons, but a majority of the reasons why people are leaving the Finger Lakes region. Again, whether that's them going to another state or to another area within the Rochester and Finger Lakes region, maybe to escape the taxes or the housing prices, or just to get around people and have proximity to things and people and amenities and whatever the reasons are. There are some people that are leaving the Finger Lakes. Again, it's not very many, but those are the reasons. And so with that being said, guys, if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you're notified every Tuesday and Thursday that I release a new video. And with that being said, as much as I love making these videos for you on all things Rochester and Finger Lakes living, I would love even more to help you with those real estate needs. So that email and that phone number that's popping up on the bottom of your screen, I am the guy that answers those texts, emails, and phone calls. So whether you're moving in 9 days or 90 days, definitely don't hesitate to reach out. It's never too soon to start your journey here. There's a lot that goes on in the relocation process. So depending on where you're coming from, we may need to get started very early. So we have people reaching out to us saying, hey, we're moving in 2 years. Will you help us? Yes, absolutely, we will. We would love to. We'd be honored to. We are the #1 relocation team in the Rochester and Finger Lakes region. So we can definitely help you out. We would love to. We'd be honored to. And so I'll stop blabbing my gums right now, and we'll catch you on the next video. Bye.